Well, I think now we'll turn it over to Mr. Bionade for his report. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. Nice. Yeah. All right. We are talking about stirring up interesting things. Unprecedented things which are happening in the US and which effects this will have on Ukraine. Especially, we are talking about USAID or USAID. Most of you know, or maybe some did not know what this is. Basically, it's a part of the US government which was helping out many countries around the world. Smaller programs, bringing much of soft power to the US. I don't want to go into the details and US politics too deeply, but I think most of you have seen and followed, and there are many YouTubers out who spoke about this topic, what's happening in the US. It seems like on the 1st of February this year, Elon Musk and his Zoomer squad showed up at the USAID department, basically the headquarters, Saturday evening, wanted entrance, and then later decided to shut it all down. Later, it seems President Trump said it will be all shut down. And this is a complicated topic because all the funding for projects in countries like Ukraine, these are long-term projects. Many of these projects we will talk about today are projects which are already finished or are getting funding step by step. But there are also many programs which are running until 2027, 2028. This is funding which is, as far as I know, already approved by Congress. Like I said earlier, unprecedented things are happening in the US, so it's not really clear what was happening and what will be happening. For now, as far as I know, a judge basically blocked the layoff and the I don't know how to call it. And guys on the panel, help me here onto words if you have like better words for this. But a judge basically blocked this order. Basically said this has to continue. This is all funding, and you cannot basically just say this department is winded down. So or this institution is winded down. So I hope it's not a farewell to USAID, what we are doing here today. We just want to talk a bit about the programs, what they were actually doing, because there are many misinformation and false infos about what USAID actually did. So USAID did not fund NAVO, and USAID did not fund pictures with Zelensky or someone else. We will actually talk about the programs which were deployed in Ukraine. Not all programs, because it's quite a lot of programs, different focuses, different programs which are really helping Ukraine and are helping in a way which you will see are significant, but very helpful, and not even that much of money which is invested. I have with me here today Jonathan, who will support me a bit in this segment. And hey.
The impact of this decision on the global south, the grim impacts, has been chronicled by many analysts. Well, some analysts. I think the correct quantifier is here. You're going to focus on humanitarian. There's quite a range that you mentioned there, Bionade. So, where would you like to begin? Humanitarian and development, veteran rehabilitation. USAID covered a huge range of support.
Yeah, it's whole spectrum. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a whole spectrum of support, and most of the information we got, thankfully, to the great reporting of the ministry, the Ukrainian Ministry of Reconstruction, right? And you will see some pictures and some things about what happened, what they did, and I would say let's maybe start a bit with the energy infrastructure, right, Jonathan?
Sure. Whatever suits you. We can see, our viewers can see in front of us here the B-roll playing of agriculture. If you may start there, that would be.
Yeah, let's start with the agriculture. That's actually a good thing. Let me just pull it up here. Where's the agriculture? Oh, here it is. So basically, one of the USAID programs, the Agri Ukraine program, is supporting the agricultural resilience and the exports. To go into details here, would say let's do it in this way that we. So that's the program. So basically, Ukraine's agricultural sector is getting supported here, and the aim is to ensure uninterrupted export capabilities despite the wartime challenges. Right? We have the issue with the Black Sea. We had many initiatives, and most of these initiatives were supported by USAID in different kinds of ways. So they supported with money. Often they support also with knowledge, right? They support with knowledge, for example, engineers, advisors. They have legal advisors, legal teams working in Ukraine, right? Which are often Ukrainians helping to integrate legislation to all these kind of topics, right? Where is it needed? Because you cannot just start a program or do a support thing, right? You need a legislation for this, you need a program, and this is one vital part what USAID did. I will just go to the key factors here, what USAID Agri program did in Ukraine. And from the financial support side, 350 million investments, also additional 370 million from the private sector and other donors for agricultural production export. This means the Danube ports were expanded, right? The USAID supported the infrastructure updates at the Danube ports. This increased export capacity. And also, there were basically this was basically an alternative route to the Black Sea itself. So the investment included special grain handling equipment and operational improvements to handle higher export volumes. Right. So this is where advisors come in, right, from big companies or from the USAID themselves, who know how to deal with these things. Then the Black Sea Grain Initiative, which delivered millions of tons of agriculture products to the global markets, helped by establishing these overland export corridors. And also, there was a very important thing about provision of seeds and fertilizers. So the USAID helped out with distribution and ensuring crop continuity in Ukraine, right? So that it's organized all over Ukraine, how are crops organized, and And the very important thing was also support for the credit unions. Like many agricultural sectors, there are credit unions for agricultural operations in Ukraine, which are helping farmers especially to get loans, to get new tractors and other things. And that's a very important work. And that's what the Ukraine Agri program, for example, did.
At a macro level, Bionade, you've just mentioned this affects millions of people, potentially affects millions of people through the Black Sea Grain Initiative, affecting the distribution of foods. We already know the impact this has had on the global south, but also at a local level. The kind of it's not just money for large scale operations. It's also vital support for local operations that we can see here on our screen, and the kind of values that come along with this kind of funding, which I think our viewers might have seen earlier, things like equal opportunities for women and in projects. This the potential cessation of this would be absolutely disastrous for a great many people.
Yeah, and as you can see, like there was like 350 million from USAID investments, and then 370 million from private sector donors, and this is all money which is making things possible, right? This is all money which is invested in things which are multiplying Ukraine's chances and chances of the Ukrainian people to cope with the situation. All right, since we have quite a long list, Jonathan, let's go to the next topic, and I would say let's go to the energy security, because like I think this is a very important project where USAID really provided much help. The USAID has basically the ESP program, the Energy Security Program, which is to strengthen Ukraine's heating infrastructure and providing alternative heating solutions, diversify energy sources, and enhancing energy independence, and everything else about infrastructure. So let's start with the first thing they did. And these were mobile boiler houses, which operate on solid fuels and are equipped with boiler pumps, so boilers, pumps, and water purifying systems, power supply systems, pipeline, and everything what you need, drainage generators. These are units designed to minimize gas consumption, making Ukraine's heating infrastructure more energy resilient, and are essential for providing backup heating and hot water to hospitals, schools, elderly care facilities, and basically critical infrastructure. USAID initially delivered 48 of these mobile boiler houses in 2023, and then the total has risen to 114 now across 14 regions. This investment was $5.6 million, but you can imagine what kind of people you reach with just this $5.6 million. Then there was another program from the ESP, which were cogeneration units. These are units, like you can see here on the screen right now, right? Often containers which are delivered. And basically these cogeneration units supply both heat and electricity, run on gas mostly. So there's basically a gas burner who is heating up steam to generate electricity, and also the heat, which is not really used, which would be like excess heat, is used to heat the water basically for warm water use, right? So delivered were 2 units of 530 kilowatt and 350 kilowatt capacity to the Lutsk region. It's in the northeast of Ukraine, northwest of Ukraine. Basically, this helps around 20,000 residents in 114 multi-story buildings. 7 kindergartens, 4 schools, 2 medical institutions are getting supported. Also, they delivered 39 gas piston cogeneration units. 18 were installed as of July 2024. We don't have any more updates on this, but basically, they sending out these units, which really helped in 2023 and early 2024 to go to the hard zone.
Thanks, Bionade. Just to be clear, the potential cessation of US aid to the Ukrainian energy sector doesn't necessarily mean the stopping of these particular plants that our viewers can see now, but it has the potential to impact them in the future.
Oh yeah, more deliveries in the future, right? Like these are programs which are already done, where just like more things would be supplied. But it's we're talking about 4,200 generators, 55 transformators, 125 kilometers of heating pipelines, and 74 excavators, right? So from an investment perspective, it's not that much money, but like it's really, really helping Ukraine, and it's already there, and everything what more comes is really helpful, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, whatever topic you want to move on to next is fine by me, Bionade. That local level story from the Vinnytsia Veterans Hub is one I'm kind of keen to bring up, because they posted on the 26th of January about the impacts of USAID not being funded to them. This impact basically meant that they were having to fundraise online for the first time since 2018. So this impact at that local level is happening. It is leading, according to places like the Vinnytsia Veterans Hub, to significant deleterious impact on these organizations and the broad range of services that they provide. We're talking, in terms of this particular place, we're talking therapeutic treatment for veterans, but we're also talking about support for families and for the people who support the veterans. So this is something which is extremely significant. And like hygiene, disease, this kind of impact is life changing for those impacted.
So actually, you're right, right? It's a good example. Veteran Hub, which is a Ukrainian nonprofit, which was supported, right? We heard about like the nonprofit organizations which get supported by USAID and what they do, or the talk about it. And the actual thing, one of these organizations, Veterans Hub, which got supported. What do they do? So they are in Vinica, which is like in central Ukraine. They provided psychological support, legal assistance, employment services, community support, and educational opportunities, right? Right now, the support from USAID was operational support. So they covered some of the expenses such as rent, staffing, infrastructure, and cost for the Venezia branch. They funded some mental health programs. They made employment initiatives. So basically, veterans can look for job fairs and other nice things, right? Job training and legal aid services, right? But these are all things which totally make sense and are totally needed. As far for the funding, my information I have found is the Venezia City Council allocated around 100,000 euros in emergency funding to temporarily support the affected programs, which might or not might be affected by USAID shutdown or not shutdown. We will see. But yeah, it's basically for 3 months to support these operating things, and yeah, we will see how it works out. But
Yeah,
important
other
program.
sources of funding do potentially exist. That this has become clear, but the interruption of the funding has in itself a significant impact on, like you say, these people's lives and the resources and support accessible and the opportunities that they that are open to them.
Jonathan, if we don't have too much time today because we have a full people, so I'm having so many interesting topics. I think we will continue this maybe next week. I'm in Ukraine possibly, so we will see. But yeah, 2 or 3 quick points I wanted to mention or programs I wanted to show, because this is what is often talked about, especially in social media and especially by the American voters who were very concerned about what's happening to the money and all the corruption in Ukraine. So there was a USAID program actually, the USAID, USAID, TAPAS program, which aimed to enhance transparency and reducing corruption through e-government reforms. Who would have known? The project 2016 to 2024, so this is all done, was a 53 million initiative. 53 million, yeah, that focused on using digital solutions to improve governments and reducing corruption in Ukraine. Key components included the e-procurement system, Prozoro system, developed was it basically as an electronic procurement system, which already saved Ukraine 9 billion by promoting transparency and accountability in public spending. They had open data expansion. Basically, they facilitated the publication of government data, empowered citizens and businesses to access critical information, and foster transparency. And digitization of public services, e-services, e-businesses. Some of you might know Ukraine is quite digitalized. DIA is a program. I'm not sure how much Ukraine was in USAID was involved in the DIA initiative by Ukraine, but yeah, it's very digitalized. So yeah, USAID's anti-corruption program, which is luckily this part is already finalized, but would be a shame if the US government, which is so concerned about corruption in Ukraine, would be cutting their own programs to watch corruption in Ukraine. Yeah. All right. Another important topic. Jonathan, you remember the Kakhovka Dam, the EcoSat in Ukraine, right? The destruction June 2023. The USAID ERA, this is the economic resilience activity, basically played a pivotal role in addressing water supply disruption for 1 million residents across the affected region. So what happened here? Key contributions were 145 kilometer water pipeline provided by USAID. engagement of CDM engineers in Ukraine to perform comprehensive technical and economic review of the project. The review resulted in 925 recommendations, of which 79% were adopted by Ukraine's Agency for Restoration. The pipeline which was built featured 6 pump stations. Each pump station has 4 pumps to manage backup, integrated with a pipeline filtration system. And yeah, I think it's all completed now. I mean, quite an impressive project. I'm not sure how big the funding was. I don't think it was.
Well, it stands at element to US support at that time, and at some point in the future, may this continue.
Yeah. We really hope so. We really hope so. Many other points, like the Dream program you already know, where they also supported. But one point I wanted to highlight here also, it's sometimes just things like USAID provided 20 tons of steel from passive protection of energy facilities. So basically what happened here, Ukraine's transformers and everything getting attacked all the time. What did they do? They built passive defense around it, which means the transformer is not an open air transformer anymore. This transformer needs, basically a building around it. So Ukraine built, small buildings around the transformers, put in good ventilation, so they're still getting passively cooled by the air. And USAID provided 20,000 tons of steel for this passive defensive systems, right? So it can be donations like this, and often these donations and often these things are not super expensive. Often it's very much knowledge, experts, advisors, political integration, but also making people able to help themselves, right? Going into points of the whole process chain and saying like, okay, we are making you able to do this, right? We are giving you the funding, and with this funding, you will be able to get much more, to attract more funding, to get more help, to do more. And it's a great thing. So I really don't see the big issue of the US government there, but we will see how it works out. We just really can hope that this will come to a good end. There are a couple of more topics I'm happily talking about in the next couple of weeks. I think this topic will be an ongoing topic. And if you have questions, be free to ask, and also in our comment section.
Cover that pretty comprehensively, Bionade. Thank you.
So one thing I see that chat is asking about is like if we can share the human cost of cutting this aid. I'm sure it's possible to somehow put out the numbers, but it's really difficult to calculate, I guess, the exact human cost. But
no, and this is the thing, right? Why I mentioned like these programs are really. It's not the money which is put into the programs, right? Sometimes it's 5 million, sometimes it's 100 million, right? These programs, many parts able to get more funding. We have seen this with the one program where the US spent 350 million, and the private sector said like, oh, that's the right sign, right? The private donors gave 370 million. If you remember the whole discussion about the railway gauge between Ukraine and Europe, right? They have different sizes of railways. This was an investment what USAID did, where they supported. So made them able to trade more freely with all of Europe and many other countries which are connected to their railway network. How to measure this in human financial costs or like these are multiplicators, right? If this program exists, Ukraine is able to do magnitudes more than it does before, if it doesn't exist. To the pictures which are on here, there was a picture before of a bench, maybe you've seen it. Basically, this bench I have, nice. So you can see here, USAID at the side. This is in Užhorod. I was there visiting friends and I saw this bench and I said like, oh, USAID, make a picture of this. These are things which are provided, which are not like very expensive, not having sometimes making a big difference. But like for me, it was nice to sit there in Užhorod at the Už, at the Napka, how they call it there, at the river, and just see like, oh, it's USAID, and you have kind of a name, a brand, soft power. the US is there. I think this is what it was sought for, and it made a good impression. I mean, at least it made a good enough impression to for me to see this and say like, oh, let's take a picture about this. I've heard about this organization before, and I only heard good things about them.
One thing I guess is important to comment is that it's not necessarily just a monetary investment, but also I assume at least the USAID is operating similarly to other aid programs, and that's at least how I've seen that they also have a lot of advisors that help. It's not just the money itself; it's expertise as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like many programs, like I mentioned, this is like advisors, engineers, what I mentioned before, right? We can see here these in the picture, these companies which are there. We talked about this ULEAD, for example, which is a European project. Basically, these projects employ people in Ukrainians, which help to draft legislature for the parliaments to include these programs. These programs get financing, but these programs need to be included somehow. These programs need to have the legal framework and everything, right? These programs need to have the correct engineering processes, funding, partners they work with, whatever. Like it's giant, complex system, and they all have basically their work. And there are multiple programs. There is a USAID, there's ULEAD, there's UK aid, there's Polska Pomoc, like you can see, the UN is working, and everything else. So yeah, it's really a huge sector of organizations, and how they basically work there, helping to implement all these projects. When I started to do this list about the USAID programs, like it's hard to factor in how many sectors are actually like USAID was involved, because it's so much different sectors, so much work there involved. Basically every time something happened, they showed like, what can we do? What connections have we? What programs can we start? And these are all well-connected people who are often for a long time into politics, have their connections, work with embassies, work with ambassadors, work with the whole system, right? It's really complex. So yeah, that's why it's for myself so aggregating and mind-boggling that some guy who bought Twitter 1.5 years ago comes in and says like, let's push some buttons, pull some power lines and see what happens.
Well, I'm interested to continue this topic. So if we can continue reporting on it, and maybe more developments around it, maybe there's more information next week, then if you're around, or if you're back in 2 weeks, then we can talk about it.
I have at least 6 or 7 or 8 more programs we'll talk about, which USAID did. So yeah, and that's not end of the line. So there are programs, like I said, which are already pre-funded until 2027, 2028, and longer. Which we have to see how it works out. Yeah, I hope the democratic process somehow prevails in the US.
On behalf of the brave.